The fiercely proud German people are utterly humiliated. The punishing terms of the Treaty of Versailles.
The year is 1933. Germany, once a mighty empire, now lies in ruins. Its spirit crushed beneath the weight of war, humiliation, and broken promises. In the streets, despair festers like an open wound. But amidst this darkness, a figure rises, a man who promises salvation, a voice that stirs the hearts of the hopeless.
Das Kapital dient der Welt und die Wirtschaft dem Volk.
His name is Adolf Hitler. His movement, the Nazi Party. What begins in the shadows will soon explode into a nightmare, a journey of power, propaganda, and manipulation that will drag the world into chaos. This is the story of how a broken nation, drowning in economic despair and political instability, is swept up in a vision of vengeance, pride, and fear. Welcome to the rise of Nazi Germany.
Reveal the secrets of Hitler's inner life and the people he led.
Hitler comes in.
Point 1. Economic collapse. In the aftermath of World War I, Germany was left shattered. The streets, once full of life and opportunity, now echoed with the hollow footsteps of the destitute. The Weimar Republic struggled to hold the country together, but economic ruin was everywhere.
The system of reparations set up in Versailles resulted in runaway inflation in Germany. From the end of the war, the mark lost ground against the dollar.
Unemployment soared to crippling heights. The currency collapsed. By 1923, the German mark was worthless, and people were using wheelbarrows of bills just to buy a loaf of bread. Families, businesses, and entire industries were crushed under the weight of inflation. The middle class, once the backbone of the nation, saw their savings evaporate, leaving them to face a future of fear and uncertainty. But in the midst of this financial collapse, something sinister took root.
Another priority target has been synthetic oil. This is what the important Sterkrada Holton synthetic oil plant at Hamborn looks like now.
The Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, saw the suffering and desperation of the people and turned it into their greatest weapon. Hitler's promise to restore prosperity, rebuild the economy, and revive national pride struck a deep chord.
Meine Arbeit für richtig Geld, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen.
His message resonated with the masses, hungry for change. For many, Hitler was no longer just a politician. He was a savior, a beacon of hope in an ocean of despair. The economic crisis, rather than weakening the country, created a perfect storm, a storm that the Nazis would ride to power. Point 2. Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was supposed to bring peace. Instead, it planted the seeds of future conflict.
Signed the document with Wilson, ill from overwork, hoping that his League of Nations will correct the shortcomings he feels are in the treaty.
To Germany, it was a humiliating betrayal, a ruthless diktat that crushed their spirit. The treaty imposed devastating reparations, stripping Germany of its colonies, its military strength, and vast stretches of territory. It was a punishment disguised as peace, and the German people felt it in their very bones. The Treaty of Versailles was not just a political agreement, it was a national wound, one that would never heal. For the Weimar Republic, the treaty was a constant reminder of their helplessness. Germans resented the treaty's terms, and they saw the Weimar government as weak, incapable of standing up for their dignity.
The Germans hoped to participate in constructing the new European order, but a defeated Germany remains excluded from the negotiations.
Enter Adolf Hitler. The Nazi leader seized upon this national outrage, making the treaty his rallying cry. He promised to tear it up, to rebuild Germany's strength, and to restore the lost territories. His passionate speeches stirred a fire in the hearts of the people.
Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab? Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
The treaty became more than just a symbol of defeat. It became a symbol of injustice. For those who felt betrayed by the world, Hitler's promise of revenge was irresistible. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to secure peace, would instead sow the seeds of a war far more devastating than anyone could imagine. Point 3, propaganda and leadership. Adolf Hitler understood that power was not just about force, it was about persuasion. From the start, he recognized the power of words, images, and emotions to shape reality. Hitler and his propaganda chief, Joseph Goebbels, turned mass media into weapons of control. Newspapers, radio, films, and most famously, grand rallies. Every tool was wielded to forge a new vision of Germany. Hitler became more than a politician. He became a symbol, a larger-than-life figure whose every move captivated the nation. His speeches were nothing short of hypnotic. With every word, Hitler conjured a vision of a restored Germany, strong and proud. His voice thundered, his rhetoric soared, as he promised a future where Germany would no longer bow to anyone. His message wasn't just political, it was emotional. He painted pictures of betrayal, of glory, of revenge. The crowd roared, intoxicated by his vision.
Zu vertreten und wenn notwendig zu verteidigen bis zum letzten Atemzug.
And it wasn't just about what he said, it was how he made people feel. Hitler didn't just talk to the masses, he made them feel as if they were part of something greater than themselves, part of a movement that would change history. In this new Germany, Hitler was the sole leader. His image became omnipresent, his face on posters, his voice on the radio. His followers saw him not as a mere man, but as a messianic figure. And this image, this aura of invincible leadership, was a key element in his rise. He didn't just offer policies, he offered a dream. And that dream, it was one the people were willing to fight and die for. Turning to your own. Point 4, fear of communism. In the early 20th century, Europe was a powder keg of political unrest. The Russian Revolution of 1917 had sparked the flames of communism across the continent, and many feared that Germany would be next. The German Communist Party was growing in strength, and the working class, disillusioned by years of suffering, was turning to radical solutions. The specter of a communist revolution loomed large, terrifying the wealthy, the military, and the middle class. This fear of communism was a key element in the Nazi Party's rise to power. Hitler and the Nazis didn't just oppose communism, they weaponized the fear of it. They presented themselves as the only party strong enough to prevent a Marxist uprising. As communist protests and uprisings took place in Germany, Hitler's anti-communist rhetoric grew louder and more urgent. He promised to protect the nation from the Red Tide, positioning himself as the last line of defense against the collapse of society. The Nazis aligned themselves with conservative elites, promising to safeguard the traditional order. For the fearful middle class and industrialists, the Nazis were the only viable option. Hitler played on their anxieties, capitalizing on their fear of a Bolshevik revolution. The more the public feared communism, the more they turned to Hitler, until the Nazi Party became the natural choice for those seeking stability and security. The fear of communism not only fueled Hitler's rise, it became the justification for the Nazis' grip on power. Point 5, weakness of the Weimar Republic. The Weimar Republic was born out of Germany's defeat in World War I, a fragile democracy built on a foundation of humiliation. It was a system never fully embraced by the people, who viewed it as a compromise between old imperial powers and the new forces of democracy. The political landscape was fractured. Right-wing extremists, left-wing radicals, and moderate Democrats all battled for influence. The Weimar government was weak, unable to deal with the overwhelming challenges it faced. The country was divided, and its leaders seemed incapable of finding common ground. The Republic's instability created a fertile ground for extremist movements. Violence in the streets was common, as right-wing and left-wing militias fought for control. The Weimar government's inability to stabilize the country led to widespread disillusionment. In this void, the Nazi Party found an audience. Hitler promised to restore order and unity to make Germany great again. His rhetoric struck a chord with those who felt abandoned by the Republic. The Weimar Republic's failure to deliver stability was its undoing. The more it faltered, the more people looked to radical solutions. And Adolf Hitler, the man who promised a new order, was waiting. The Republic's weakness became the doorway through which the Nazis would enter and change the course of history forever. The rise of Nazi Germany was not a single event, it was a slow burn, a perfect storm of despair, fear, and manipulation. Hitler, with his ruthless vision and unparalleled ability to exploit the weaknesses of the nation, became the instrument of Germany's tragic transformation. His promises of national revival were intoxicating, but they came at a devastating cost. The rise of the Nazis would ignite a world war, lead to genocide, and leave a legacy of horror that still resonates today. The rise of Nazi Germany is a reminder that power, when seized through